What has been described so far is not limited to myth, symbols, or internal experience. It exists everywhere, not hidden but embedded. The same structure that appears in mythology, in cycles, in human behavior, extends outward into society itself. Modern systems are not separate from these archetypes. They are built on them, shaped by them, and continuously reinforcing them in new forms. What once appeared as gods, forces, and symbolic narratives now appears as institutions, industries, and everyday structures. The names have changed. The pattern has not. Money, for example, is one of the clearest expressions of this system. It appears simple on the surface, currency, exchange, value, but beneath that simplicity is a deeper structure tied directly to time and limitation. This connects back to Cronus, or Saturn, the archetype of time, structure, and constraint. Money is not just value, it is time converted into value. Hours worked become income. Time invested becomes return. Delayed gratification becomes accumulation. The system enforces limits, cycles, and structure, just as Saturn does. Deadlines, interest, wages, scarcity, all of these are modern expressions of the same underlying principle. Reality structured through time and limitation. This is why money creates pressure, not because of the numbers themselves, but because it ties directly into the most fundamental constraint within the system, time. Sports operate differently, but follow the same pattern. They are not just games, they are structured expressions of competition, identity, and controlled conflict. This aligns closely with the archetype of Mars, action, aggression, movement, but also with the authority structures represented by Zeus and similar figures. Rules are established, hierarchies are created, winners and losers are defined within a controlled system. What was once real conflict becomes symbolic conflict. What was once survival becomes competition. Stadiums replace arenas, teams replace tribes, but the underlying structure remains organized struggle within defined limits. Millions of people invest emotion, identity, and energy into outcomes they do not directly control because the system provides a structured way to engage with those archetypal forces without real-world consequence. It is participation through observation, a reflection of deeper drives expressed in a contained environment. Media operates at yet another layer. It does not primarily control structure or action, it shapes perception. This aligns directly with the moon archetype, the domain of reflection, interpretation, and emotional framing. Media does not usually change reality itself. It changes how reality is seen, what is emphasized, what is repeated, what is framed as important. These determine how individuals interpret events, assign meaning, and ultimately act. In this sense, media becomes one of the most powerful extensions of the system, because perception feeds everything else. If perception is shaped, then thought is shaped. If thought is shaped, belief follows. If belief is shaped, action changes. The system flows outward from there. Religion, in its institutional form, reflects yet another layer of the same structure. It carries echoes of the original archetypes directly. Authority figures mirror the role of Zeus, Jupiter, or El establishing order, defining rules, interpreting meaning. Time-based rituals, cycles, and moral frameworks reflect the influence of Saturn, structure, repetition, limitation, and consequence. Even the narratives themselves, creation, fall, knowledge, consequence, renewal, mirror the exact cycle already described. What was once myth becomes doctrine. What was once symbolic becomes institutional. But the structure remains intact. The key realization is this: these systems are not independent. They are interconnected expressions of the same underlying framework. Money reflects time and limitation. Sports reflect action and structured competition. Media reflects perception and interpretation. Religion reflects authority, belief, and moral structure. Each one maps back to the archetypes. Each one reinforces the cycle. This is why modern life can feel complex, even overwhelming. Not because it is random, but because multiple layers of the same system are operating simultaneously. A person works within a time-based structure, money, interprets reality through perception, media, acts within systems of competition, sports, career, forms beliefs within structured narratives, religion, culture, all while moving through the internal cycle of awareness, emotion, thought, and action. Understanding this does not mean rejecting these systems. It means recognizing them, seeing how they function, seeing how they connect. Because once recognized, something changes. What once felt separate begins to reveal itself as patterned. What once felt overwhelming becomes structured. What once felt external begins to reflect internal processes. This is the deeper insight. Society is not outside the system. It is the system expressed at scale. And once that is seen, the same awareness applied internally can be applied externally. Not to control it, but to navigate it, to understand how forces operate, where influence exists, and how individual choices interact with larger structures. Because the same principles remain true. Structure exists. Perception shapes experience. Time constrains movement. Belief directs action. Whether in myth, in the individual, or in society. Different forms, same pattern.